You're listening to the REI Clarity Podcast, the show that guides you from confusion to clarity and sets you on the path to financial freedom faster. Learn how to grow your portfolio the right way with your host, REI superhero and co-founder of Shine Insurance, Jeremy Goodrich.
Hey, this is Jeremy Goodrich, owner of Shine Insurance and your host for the REI Clarity Podcast. So excited to have you with us today. Our guest is an investor. He's a realtor. He handles properties in a lot of different ways, and he's going to talk about that experience on many different sides of the coin with us during our 30-minute conversation today. So Chris Berg, thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
So tell us a little bit about how you got started in real estate investing.
Yeah, so just to start from the beginning, I was a teacher for 14 years. And then I continued being a teacher even after we started investing. So I think, we're only in this for 5 or 6 years now, but we took a road trip, my wife and kids, and I took a road trip to Colorado, and we went camping for a month. And on the way back, I was like, I want more of this. And then on the long drive back from Colorado through the Plain States, I looked at my my Indiana teacher retirement fund, and it wasn't pretty. And I'm like, man,
yeah. How
do I get more money? She's a college professor, but she's in a school of nurses. So she took a big pay hit going into education as well. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, we have a good life, but what's the next level? So I just reached out to my best friend. I'm like, hey, man, what's the best way to get wealthy? And he said, you're really good at real estate, because I've been doing it for years. I fix up my own houses. I help people fix things. I read a lot about it. He's like, why don't you just buy a property and see? Because he owned hundreds at the time.
Yeah.
I said, all right. So we started, doing what everybody else does, going to Loopnet or Zillow, Trulia. And literally by the time we got back to West Lafayette, which is where we lived at the time, my wife found something on the MLS, which, people say it's dead and you can't find any deals there. But we took the equity from our home because we'd fix it up and got it appraised, and literally bought a triplex, a student rental triplex on the campus of Purdue.
Huh. So your first purchase was a triplex, and it was a student rental triplex.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty, but
right.
It surprised us because it was 3 doors down from us. So easy for me to manage. I dipped my toe in the water with the property management side of things and just learn. And, the day we got it appraised, which wasn't soon after we bought it, it appraised for $50,000 of what we bought it for. So it wasn't, but 2 months later, we were able to use the equity from that and roll it into a fourplex.
Huh.
So within a matter of months, we were owners of 7 units.
Huh. And have you continued to do that, kind of take the equity out of one, use that as the down payment for the next, kind of almost a BRRRR type of approach, and take it from there?
Yeah, so what we did is we moved to Colorado. It's been a little over a year and a half ago. And when we left town of West Lafayette, we sold those for a decent little profit. And we did our first 1031 exchange into an 11-unit apartment complex.
Oh, wow.
So we upgraded in the number of units. That took care of that. And we've increased the value. It's appreciated. So we're doing really well on that. And recently we went under contract and selling that as well. We're in our 90-day period for the 1031 exchange currently.
So that was kind of your start. And it sounds like over 5 years you've grown. And can you tell our audience a little bit about where you're at as an investor right now?
Yeah, currently I have partners. I am a broker. I own my own brokerage here in Bloomington. It's called Kirkwood Realty, and it's brokered by a larger company, a parent company called EXP. So I do the traditional buy and sell for everybody and also for myself. But we have a great business model for house flipping, because that's the passion projects, helps us be creative. So with my partners, I manage 112 units, doors, and then my wife and I own 69. So I manage the managers. So I'm kind of like the acquisitions plus like the overall portfolio manager of all of them. So I deal with the day-to-day operations of those. And then I'm the boots on the ground guy for the flipping business as well. So I deal with the contractors, I do the acquisitions, all that stuff. I do a little bit of everything.
So it's fascinating to me, the folks that I meet in this industry that seem the most fascinating are doing kind of what you're doing where not only are you investing in a couple of different ways, sounds like you're doing a lot of buy and hold and you've built your portfolio up, but then also flipping for the creativity and probably for the cash flow sometimes, I would imagine.
Yeah.
But then you're playing a central role for other people. You're sort of the brains, and I might be putting words into your mouth, so tell me, but you're kind of the brains behind the operation where other people say, hey, I've got some money, or hey, I've got some element of it. And you're like, hey, well, I love this. I'm good at pro formas. I'm good at, connecting with other people. I'm already a realtor. And so I can find things maybe before other people. And you sort of play a central role for partners. Could you describe a little bit how you started doing that? And maybe for a listener who wants to play that role, what works?
Yeah. So, every podcast you listen to or book, when you start in the business of real estate, you want to provide value to someone. And so I started doing that to my business partners, providing value. But, you and I, before the podcast, we talked about I have a high motor, so I just don't stop. And if I were to just be a real estate agent, that's a tough job alone.
Mm-hmm.
But my creativity, my passion wouldn't be fulfilled. So doing the management side and the acquisition side, all of that helps. And I'm like helping other people do that as well, because not everybody sees the full picture. So since I have my fingers in a lot of different pots, I feel like I have this broad knowledge to help people who want to be investors, people who just want to get rid of their homes, people who want to renovate homes and just want me to bounce ideas off of. I'm happy to do that. I'm a no-fee type of guy when it comes to that stuff because, number one, I love it. Mm-hmm. And ever since I left education, I feel like I'm missing that piece of giving back more. So a lot of my services are free when it comes to asking me, what should I do? I'm happy to hold a hand every now and again. Eventually, my bandwidth is going to be taken up, but I like to guide people. And it's part of the giving back projects that we do. Is just helping people better, because I've seen what real estate has helped me with.
Yeah.
So I want to help other people do the same. So hopefully people look at me as a resource. Mm-hmm. If they want to get rid of a home or they want my help flipping it, or they just want to sell it, hopefully they call me or knock on my door and say, hey, can you help me with this? Because I'm happy to do it. I'm definitely not the brains behind the project. My partners are very savvy. Mm-hmm. I feel like I have a niche of finding properties, and I feel like I have a niche of evaluation of properties, but all the credit doesn't go to me. My partners, they started before I did, and it's a reason I look at them for mentorship as well.
So I heard a couple of things there. One, you and I have that in common, that we're both former educators. And I think that being a former teacher gives you the capacity to, one, like kind of empathy, right? Like clearly we've both chosen to have jobs that we knew were not going to make us a bunch of money. And there's some like element around that I think the service mm-hmm. piece is really valuable and important. But the other one that I've found is that the capacity to explain things. I say to folks a lot, I explained how to do division to fourth graders for 13 years. I can explain how to navigate, REI Insurance. And I think there's something about former teachers who can explain and describe things in a way that isn't talk downy, that isn't like, let me show you how much information or knowledge I have. It's just kind of like, okay, here's my best of my ability. Here's what I see and here's what I understand. So part of the value it sounds like you bring to these scenarios is simply being an educator. And the other is you've found your value in being a resource on the element of finding properties.
Yeah.
So if a listener is like, well, I know I have this value. Maybe I don't have the money. But I have the ability to, I'm a realtor and I know that I can connect with properties and be able to connect them with other people. Let's see if I can find someone with the money, or just the ability to like reach out to people and talk with them about the stuff they're doing and what they're working on ends up being an opportunity for you. Not that that's what the intention behind it. You're just trying to help people, but then it becomes opportunities as well.
We've only been back in Bloomington. I've been in Indiana my whole life, except for the 1 year in Colorado. But since we've been back, most of the deals we have with flips have come from relationships. Mm-hmm. And just mentioning, hey, I'm looking for another home. And a lot of times they don't come for 2 or 3 months, but people will, they come to me with deals and say, hey, my mom she wants to get rid of her house. She doesn't know what to do with it. She doesn't want to list it on the market. It's in really bad shape. Do you know anyone? And mm-hmm. I said, yeah. Me.
Yeah, sure do.
Yeah, it's this guy.
Exactly. So let's talk about those relationships. I mean, how can a listener really, if they're wanting to create relationships, what are some of the ways you found that do that the best?
Yeah, so the most organic way is And I had a hard time doing this because I was never, I'm an entrepreneur, but never felt like I was a business person. So when I engage in conversation, which I don't have a problem with, it was easy to tell people I was in education, I was a teacher. But when it come to telling them I'm a real estate agent or an investor, to me at the beginning of this career path, it felt a little sleazy to me. And I don't know why, but it just did. But
so with you, I'm so with you.
Yeah, pumping it into a conversation, I'm not, it doesn't mean I'm trying to get the business. It's just, now I'm just saying I invest. And that's what I do. And I'm super passionate about it. I love it. There's so many aspects of real estate that I love. So now getting myself and my wife to talk to people about it is becoming easier, but just, organically throwing it into a conversation is the best piece, because there's always somebody listening who either owns a home or knows somebody who wants to sell a home or get rid of a home. And then that just comes into, I can talk real estate all day. So it becomes this natural conversation, and I think they see my passion with it. And even if I don't buy the house, like, I will truly help them. I'll show them the best realtor for that type of home or the best way to go about it. I've talked to several people that wanted to flip or just get rid of the home. I've talked into refinancing because they just don't know the strategies of refinancing and using their equity for their benefit. So I've talked to them. So I feel like I've even lost deals from helping people get better in that way. But yeah.
If you're helping people, I've talked to, in fact, an apartment association. I was talking with them about risk. They asked me as an insurance agent to come talk to them about risk. And I was like, man, insurance presentations are always the most boring. Like, how can I make this not boring? And so I really talked about this balance between, look, everything we're doing is a balance between two things. One, on one side, it's making money. If we're not making money on some premise, then, we're not a business, and we're certainly not going to be able to keep doing this for very long. And on the other side, it's helping people. If we're not helping people, then we're just like some other terrible person out there who's a slumlord and, not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And so if we're looking at our business and our investment properties as a balance between making money and helping people, we're naturally going to, what you were saying, we're naturally going to find great opportunities because we're just trying to help people.
Yeah.
And in the case of the conversation I was having, we're naturally going to make good risk decisions. We want to make sure people get down the staircase properly and don't fall down it. We want to make sure there's a smoke alarm in each apartment so that if there's a fire, they don't die. These are just basic things we do if our intention is to help people at the same time.
Yeah.
So,
I haven't talked about this, but you've used the word risk a ton. And that's one of the reasons I never jumped into real estate earlier, is because people see it as a very risky thing to do rather than have that steady paycheck. But the more and more people I talk to, because I really want to get more people into investing, I find out that there's just a large population of people who are so risk adverse that they're afraid to take action. But I will tell you, that's when my wife got on board with investing, which she wasn't always, as soon as she was on board, we took that one step, that leap of faith, and we saw how it actually works, the tax advantages on the buy and holds, the flipping side of things, the flexibility in our day-to-day life that it provides. Yeah. Once we saw it work, our belief started going up and up. Yeah. That's one thing I'm trying to portray to other people who have not gotten into investing yet, who have the knowledge but just don't want to take the first step. I'm trying to find a different way to explain to them that it's, the juice is worth the squeeze.
Yeah. It's like pouring out of a cup of risk, or I'm using that again, but yeah, you have to take those first steps and then you see the value of it. So as far as those relationships, one is just talking about it all the time. Like making sure that you're talking, not forcing real estate into conversations, but truly just chatting with folks about what you do, why you do it, and why you love it is valuable.
Yeah.
Are there other ways that listeners can build relationships that you've seen work?
Yeah. A couple things that I do is the contractors that I work with are the boots on the ground guys. So I work side by side with them sometimes on the first flips that we do to show that not only am I knowledgeable, but I have a strong work ethic. Mm-hmm. And that once they see that and we get more of a personal relationship, I've gotten several deals just from my contractors because they see that, I'm in it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
So I think that's an approach a lot of people don't take because they get into this and they don't want to get their hands dirty. But I enjoy doing that. Mm-hmm. I don't like sitting behind a computer all day. So I like getting out there and doing that. The real estate agents in town, getting out there and doing the the dirty stuff with them as well.
Mm-hmm.
We don't always love doing open houses, but I'll stop in and do the brokers opens with them and have conversations. And just that's different ways to create relationships with those guys as well. Because being an agent isn't as easy as what people think it is. It's a job that requires grinding.
Yeah. And so it's like connecting with your service providers in some ways.
Yeah.
I think that we all know our network of folks, and contractors is certainly in there. And if they know what you do, why you do it, and how you do it, then they're going to be likely to share the deal with you.
Yeah.
And that makes a ton of sense. Hey, it's Jeremy putting my ad hat on right now. As you know, my primary connection with the investment property world, my zone of genius, is investment property insurance. I am the REI Insurance guy. Our team at Shine Insurance takes care of investors from all walks and all strategies. If you need insurance for your portfolio, and of course you do, I'm offering a free one-on-one call just for REI Clarity listeners. On that call, we'll chat through your scenario, and I'll share insights and thoughts on how to get your insurance right and whether Shine is a good fit for you. No pressure, no slimy sales, anything. Just me on the phone sharing my insights. To book that call, go to shineinsurance.com/REI Clarity. That's shineinsurance.com/REI Clarity. I want to talk a little bit about another topic, digging into the idea of diversifying your portfolio. You have a pretty diverse portfolio as far as I can tell. It's multiple different places, it's multiple different types of investments. Is there a reason you've chosen to be as diverse as you are?
Well, because the market, number one, is volatile and you never know where it goes, but we enjoy all of our asset classes. As you know, Shine Insurance has the bulk of our portfolio, but we have short-term rentals, we have lake homes. I believe we have 4 now because we just sold one. So we do the Airbnb and VRBO. Our cabins are in Kentucky and Tennessee. And then we have the apartment complexes as well. And then obviously the flips. But we do it, number one, because it's learning. So it's the education piece. And we see the advantages of all of them. We do the flips for the cash, for the instant cash. We do the VRBOs and Airbnbs. Those happen to be our best returns. But they're not guaranteed, especially with COVID and everything that it's brought to our doorstep. But the buy and holds the tax advantages, especially when you get into any of the tax advantages that we do, cost segregation and different things like that. So, and then, as of this week, we're diving into mobile home parks.
Oh, cool. Huh. Yeah, there's a lot of people who've been very profitable in that type of investment. I think when done right, it's a pretty solid way to invest.
It is. And there's a few tax changes that recently came out that helped us decide to move towards that. So we're pretty excited about that acquisition. There'll be a huge learning curve for us as well, but we're pretty excited about it. But, each bucket helps each other. So sometimes when our short-term rentals aren't doing as well, our long-term rentals help feed that. So we've been able to keep each asset class afloat, taking the cash flow of each and helping each other with renovations, CapEx, or whatever happens to be.
That's really cool. So what I heard was flips or cash flow. Airbnb tends to be a profitable space. Buy and hold helps with taxes and also is probably the most stable of them all. And then the new mobile homes, probably fairly profitable. Sounds like you're kind of learning about that space as you go.
Yeah.
Let's talk about COVID for a second. You've described how diversifying has helped you. Certainly someone who is all Airbnb right now is probably hurting more than your portfolio is. How have you seen it affect your portfolio?
Man, it's crazy because I manage all of our Airbnbs. The first 2 weeks, it was a massive cancel of reservations across the board. But then the later this is lasting, sounds like a play on words, or a pun, but since people are having cabin fever, so now more and more people are booking. So lots of cancellations at the beginning and then booking. But I think Airbnb admitted fault a couple weeks ago. They allowed 100% cancellation refunds to anybody, which put the owners in a bind because we're business owners.
Yeah.
And now they're helping us out with a 25% refund of those.
No, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing okay in that regard. But, our lake homes, they're a specific type of short-term rental. They're all waterfront or water access. It's definitely a vacation type of spot. It's not in the middle of a city. They're isolated. So we haven't felt the hit as much as other people have.
Yeah.
But I will tell you this, outside of COVID, well, I guess it helps with COVID. So when COVID hit, my family and I were going down there, going to one cabin it happened right at spring break. So we took our kids down to one cabin just to check up on it, see if it needs a paint job, we do some yard work. But then we found that they were shutting everything down. So we extended our vacation and we bounced around to all of them. We stayed like a week or two at a time, and we were able to turn it into a small little vacation. It felt like we were cheating the system.
Yeah. That's really cool though. Yeah.
It's the one asset class that we can truly enjoy personally. We can book it out for a week or two in the summer, and we can go and enjoy those. So that's, if any of the listeners are able to do that or look into it, I'm happy to help them out, or if they have questions about it, happy to help them out with that as well. But it's that one asset class you can truly enjoy with the family, which we enjoy.
It seems like, and what you're saying is that it may be not as volatile as I was thinking it was, but it seems like Airbnb is a pretty big risk at this point. But you're saying you're seeing some return of bookings.
Yeah, we're seeing a return of bookings. I will tell you this, though. There's, this is just my thought. Airbnb is taking the side of the consumer rather than the business owners at this point. But I think they're backpedaling a little bit.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We happen to be more keen on Vrbo than Airbnb. We like their platform a little bit more. We feel like their policies are a little bit more strict, and which help us out.
Yeah.
But you have to be on both platforms to be competitive in the market.
That makes sense. Hey there, Jeremy here. As you know, my primary connection with the investment property world, my superpower, is investment property insurance. I am the REI Insurance guy. One of the things investment property clients at Shine Insurance love is the way we organize and explain insurance. We make it simple. There's a central document we use to do that, and I'd like to share that with you along with a complete guide to using it. The organizer and the complete guide to investment property insurance are totally free. You can find them at shineinsurance.com/REI Clarity. That's shineinsurance.com/REI Clarity. All right, so the two topics we dug deep into are relationships, how to build great relationships, and then diversifying your portfolio. Great example of why to do that is right now with this COVID scenario, you've been able to, because you have a diverse portfolio, sort of make up losses in one area with, the stability of other areas.
Yeah.
So I'd love to move into, for those listeners who really want to take the leap from 3 to 10 doors up to making, finding financial freedom faster with a larger portfolio, getting to the place where you're at, Chris, what are 3 steps that they could take to get there?
Well, the first one would be providing value. So, I have a bunch of steps, Jeremy. I don't know where I'm going with this, but I will tell you this.
That's fine.
I will tell you this.
It can be whatever you want.
Yeah. I mean, I kept an open mind when I went into investing. And the number one thing I heard was provide value. So what I didn't talk about is my wife and I are partial owners of a 42 unit in Louisville, Kentucky. Mm-hmm. We got in on that with zero money. And then we also purchased a 16 unit. We're 50-50 owners of that one with zero money. And it's because I found the deals. I put them together. I'm the boots on the ground, the manager of the managers. I did that because I provide value. So there's so many different ways to get units, but you have to have an understanding with whoever's looking. If you can provide them value, rather than taking a paycheck, somebody could have given me $10,000 to find the 42 units. Yeah. And some people would run with it. Mm-hmm. Luckily, we didn't need it. We live frugally. We do okay. We're not high rollers. So I didn't need the $10,000. So rather than take, and it was more than 10 for the 42 mm-hmm. unit, I said, I want the equity. Yeah. And then my partner, it's a different partner that we have the units in Muncie. Yep. That was a straight up cash deal. he said, I'll give you 50-50 if you find it and you do everything.
Huh.
So I got lucky on that one. And so I'm a 50-50 owner on those with zero money in the deal.
Wow. So as the
Now,
realtor,
we've done capital injections.
yeah.
It wasn't even an acquisition by realtor. We found it off market. It was pre-market type of thing.
That's awesome.
So many different ways. But I will tell you, if you don't have the network of people that I do, which I think there's always somebody looking. The way that we got in, I truly believe it, is, the BRRRRed calls it house hacking.
Yeah. Yep.
We house hacked. We took a decent home and we renovated the kitchen and the bathrooms, and we did landscaping, and we called in an appraiser, and he appraised our home for, $70,000 more than we bought it for. And we took 80% of that and we bought the triplex.
Wow.
And then the triplex turned into a different one. So using the equity in your own home is an excellent strategy.
Yeah, and that's kind of creative financing. I mean, maybe not the key definition of creative financing, but it's a obvious way to creatively finance something by using the equity in your home.
Yeah.
And, starting from there and growing out of there, and realizing that sitting back and growing equity in a home is one approach. Certainly there's positives to that, but that equity is the capacity to grow that number exponentially. And I think a lot of people are finding more and more that using that equity to grow your portfolio is a good idea. I guess maybe I turn that around into a question. What are your thoughts about when to use your equity and when to grow equity in a property?
I think the answer to that is individual. You'll know when you're ready. So to this date, we have taken $0 from our investment properties, our buy and holds, because they're our long-term play. So when we were ready for long-term play, we said, let's use our equity. That's when it's time. When you've had almost enough of the status quo. When you think, I can buy a house if you can buy a house for $100,000 and you need $30,000 to fix it up, look at your equity and see if that's enough to get that done.
Yeah.
So when the time is right.
That makes total sense. Okay, cool. So providing value was the first step. What would the second one be?
It's easy for me and you to say, but it's all day. It's education. Yeah. Education. It doesn't matter how you get it. It's podcasting. It's reading books, REI groups. It's mentorships. I'm always talking it. And the thing is, I'm learning every day. There's so many different strategies. I think a lot of people get into this after they read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but mine was a different book, and mine was I'd read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and it helped me conceptualize the whole idea of investing and getting money to work for you. Yeah. But I use all of these education pieces to help me: podcasting, books, REI groups. And then I have my mentors, which happens to be my best friend, and my other partners. So we all just bounce ideas off each other. We get creative.
That makes sense. I've heard over and over again that, there's two pieces to making good decisions. The first one is education, and the second one is experience. And you can't buy experience, but you certainly can buy or find or put headphones on for education, and you build that foundation, and then you make some decisions, take some chances, and get that experience.
Yeah. I've never told somebody this, but when I got serious about investing, and it was, years ago, but first podcast I listened to on the way back from Colorado was, I think it was Spouses Flipping Houses. Okay. It was okay. It was okay. And it got me, it piqued my interest.
Was it like the interpersonal part of two people married to each other and having to navigate the construction? And okay, right on. Cool.
And it was great. And then, again, my business partner, he goes, "Have you heard of Bigger Pockets?" And I said, "No." Yeah. So I jumped in at episode 100, and then I'm like, wow, this is good. And so all I did, and this is anybody who gets obsessed about anything like me, I went all the way to episode number 1, and I listened to every single one. Absolutely. Went on a jog, mowing the lawn. I always had my headphones and I listened to it. It's a complete education. Yeah. And it's a bunch of terms you didn't understand. And, once you hear them 100 times, you start to understand it. And it was just great. It was fun.
So providing value. And your example was how you got into these 42 and 16 units by, being the person who facilitated finding those buys, and then education, learning as much as you can. And let's finish out this episode with one more step to clarity for someone who wants to take that big leap.
Mine is, whatever opportunity. So this is a keep an open mind part of it. So I guess I'm giving you 4, but it doesn't matter if it crosses my desk, it crosses in front of my face. If it's an opportunity, I truly heard it, and I don't know who told me, but a lot of people have heard it. It's not I can't afford it. It's you have to ask yourself, how can I afford it? If
Yeah.
it's a deal, it's a deal. And so if I don't have the money in my pocket, I got to figure out, all right, I don't have it, but how can I get it? I don't have to own 100% of it to be a victory. If it's 10%, then I'm super happy as well. It's 10% is better than 0%. And then I think the one thing that I bring to the table is just grinding. I'm nonstop all the time. Again, I'm never focused too much because I'm always thinking about the next step or something else going on. But I'm always out there grinding. And my wife hates the word grind. No, she hates the word hustle.
Yeah.
She hates the word hustle, which I think is just a spin on the word grind. So
yeah,
hustling sounds a little bit more sleazy.
They're both, I mean, you can do both hustle, grind, work hard, get it done. All of them you can do well, and you can do poorly, you can do ethically, and you can do sleazy. But it really is. It's just like hard work, And I think that you put all those things together.
It's just hard work.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the truth is, one thing I haven't portrayed in this interview is I freaking love what I do. I'm having a blast.
Yeah.
I mean, as soon as I get off here, I'm going to go to a listing meeting for a probate, and I'm super excited about it because I know I can help the family out to, get rid of that asset and help them make some money.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to go over to a flip house and see how the renovations are going. It's so much fun, this whole real estate investing.
I love it so much, and it's exciting to listen to you and hear from you, Chris, on how you're doing it. And I feel like there's been a lot of insight here and a lot of forward progress. So you mentioned that you're willing to help folks out. Obviously, no one should be taking advantage of that. But if someone does want to get in touch with you either for some help, some questions, or to have you, do the work that you do for them, how can they do so?
Yeah, they can email me, which is livekirkwood@gmail.com. So livekirkwood@gmail.com, or they can text me. It's fine. It's kind of the hug of death if you give out your phone number, but they can find me on the internet.
Yeah, sure.
KirkwoodBtown.com is my website. It's pretty basic, but it's good enough for information. And my contact information is on there. So, I do Facebook posts and Instagram, and I have a small YouTube channel, all that stuff. So find me on social media.
Sweet. And all those things are linked in the show notes below this show. So if you want to find Chris, there's all those ways to do that. Chris, thank you so much for being on the REI Clarity podcast. I think you created clarity for a lot of folks today.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Had a great time.
Special thanks to Chris Berg for taking the time to share his insights with us. He is a true example of taking the big leaps. So who do you know who needs to hear this podcast? Who's that friend dreaming of buying their first multifamily? Who were you just talking to about investing in real estate? Grab your phone and send them this episode. Let's help everyone level up. We read every single review, and they really do help. So tell us what you liked, what you learned, and give us a 5-star review while we're at it. That helps folks to find us on Apple Podcasts and wherever else you rate and review us. Do join us also on the REI Clarity Facebook group. It is the place to get clarity, make connections that lead to cash flow, and implement the systems and strategies we talk about here. Just search REI Clarity on Facebook and look for the gold logo. We will see you there, and we'll catch you in the next episode where I break down Chris's ideas and insights into the framework that we use to understand how we're succeeding as investment property owners. All right, until the next time, here's to clarity that brings financial freedom faster.